Hey all, Darby here at Generative University, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing an interview that I had with Dr. Culp, who's a professor of business at Louisiana Christian University, which was my alma mater. Played baseball for 4 years in college as a pitcher, and was going through the business program there as well during my time in college. And Dr. Culp reached out to me recently, asked if I would come and just share some insights and some of my thoughts on the state of AI as it relates to the good, the bad, and the ugly, because the space is changing so fast and there's so much going on in the world of AI. And if I'd come and share what I am currently working on and some thoughts on the subject to some college students that are getting ready to enter the workforce. And so this interview is going to be a series of questions that Dr. Culp, as well as the students that were in the crowd, sourced and asked based on their interests and kind of what was top of mind at the time of this interview. And so it'll be a series of questions with my responses, and I hope that you find some of the responses insightful, helpful, and useful. Also just thought-provoking with some of the questions, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments as well. And so as we get ready to jump in, make sure that if you do like this video and the content we produce here at NEIU, go ahead and like and subscribe this video. Leave a comment, let me know if you got any insights or golden nuggets from it, and enjoy the interview. I hope you get something out of it, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right, welcome all. Thank you for coming. I think artificial intelligence is the future in business, and probably many other things that we are undetected yet. But there's some really good things, some bad things, and some ugly things about AI. And the reason, one, I know Darby, he was a graduate here in 2015 in the business department. We spent a lot of time together. He is an entrepreneur. He and two of his fellow entrepreneurs in Austin produced a game called the SideHustle, which is basically a marketing game for people that like to talk and yell and scream and different things like that. I have a copy. I use it in my entrepreneurship class. It's basically a 2-minute challenge. You get 2 cards, a product and a company. And what you have to do is you have to out yell, scream, or talk the other 2 people you're competing against, much like you might do in business. How's the sales on that, Darby? You doing good?
We sold through the initial Kickstarter batch, and now we're just getting some more funding for the second version of the game.
Nice. As you can see, Darby is maturing with that picture he had up there earlier with the long hair, the white with your white top, dude. Anyway, artificial intelligence. I'm just going to turn it over to you. We did speak, I said earlier, about the good, bad, and the ugly. So you take as much time on any one of the 3 topics or all of them, and then we'll field some questions from the audience.
Sure. Thank you for having me here as well, Dr. Culp. It's nice to be back and sharing a little bit about what we're doing in the business world, and in the world of AI right now, especially, is obviously a hot topic. I'm sure you guys have all probably been exposed in some way, shape, or form with ChatGPT, and are hopefully looking at ways that you can use it in your business or education or just life to stay with the times and adapt as things are changing. Because one thing for certain right now is that AI is disrupting a lot of industries, and what you knew 6 months ago about AI may be completely different about what some of the tools are capable of, and some of the new advancements of the technology, which brings a lot of opportunity, especially if you're an entrepreneur or in business, ways that you can streamline and scale your operations, from human resources to customer service to sales to marketing to education, and just growing your customer base and your audience. A lot of different applications for business, but also with all of the opportunity, there's of course opportunity for bad actors and for things to get ugly. And so you see a lot of negativity in the news as well when it comes to AI. And something that, being kind of in like the center of generative AI as it was starting to pick up steam 3 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be good friends with a startup that pivoted into starting to work with OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, and developed a company called Jasper. It's kind of one of the first portals into AI that we started to explore. I was their first customer, and that is what has turned into my company, Gen AI University, today. And so over the past 3 years, things have changed insanely in the industry, and it's only getting faster from here. And so now, from just 3 years ago, one simple prompt to create a blog post was mind blowing. And now people are writing books in a matter of minutes with it. And people are creating video content, and they're creating social media posts at a scale which we've never seen before. And with all the speed of change, you see the bad actors and the ugly with things like deep fakes and celebrities getting cloned and endorsing products that they never formally endorsed or wanted to be a part of. There's a lot of just Google things that are going on in the world of copyright for artists and creators and who owns what content. And in this day and age, IP is the new gold, and IP and data, and who controls that. And so that's where the money is flowing, and that is where a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of uncertainty around who's got my data, what am I doing in terms of protecting my company's IP to not just be stolen by these new AI agents and things that are going to come and infiltrate our systems and do bad things to our business, because the AI is incredibly powerful, and if used for bad, then bad things can really happen. And so it's important that when we're looking at the context of AI for business to, or I believe it's incredibly important in this context, is to think ethically first, and how can we use AI in the best possible fashion, but not just to further our own businesses or our own personal ventures, but if you are taking a step on board integrating AI into your day-to-day life, which I think that's the way that everything is going, and it's going to be seamless, just as the internet right now is seamless. If you are taking that step forward right now, I think it's very important to be thinking from like a social level, what are the impacts of what you're going to be doing in business? Because the speed at which things can get brought to the market is only going to get faster. The speed at which you can go in the wrong direction with an idea or a business or anything can go in the wrong direction as much as it can go in the right direction. And so taking the time to make sure we're not forgetting how to think, and not forgetting how the choices that we make, regardless of AI being with us or not, are going to have impacts not just on ourselves, but also our business and our families and our friends. Especially if you're building a business to sustain a lifestyle and to grow, your network and open up other opportunities. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of great ways you can use AI for good. There's a lot of ways that you can use it for bad. And there's a lot of ways that, as we see a split in just how AI is being used to create new opportunities and new jobs, there's the other side of the equation where people are losing jobs and needing to reskill and restructure how they are approaching the workforce. And it's brutal out there right now, to be honest with you. And it's probably not what you want to be hearing if you're in college and going out into the workforce to just starting a business. But everything is changing right now. It's an election year, but like no one really knows what's going to happen in the next week with AI and this technology. It seems like every hour there's some new advancement or some new product or some new tool or some new discovery that flips everything else on its head. And so with that, something of a motto that I have established amongst our company is to simply adapt, integrate, and grow, because just like change is going to be a constant, your ability to adapt with the speed of change is going to be necessary in order to keep up and stay ahead of this change. And then using that ability to adapt to then integrate into your business, into your life, into your workflow, and focus on the things that are practical first, and the things that are actually going to move the needle. From there, where can you focus on new opportunities to grow? Instead of spending 6 hours thinking about what to write for a blog post, you can get that done now yourself or with someone on your team in a matter of minutes. So what are you going to do with the new capacity that you have opened up to as a result of these tools, freeing us from time to do tasks and focus on outcomes that are going to have the greatest leverage for impact and scale for the ideas that we're bringing to market with business. And yeah, that's kind of my take on it as it goes right now. Even as a business owner and entrepreneur, it's a lot to keep up with all the changes in this and how we're training and educating people and developing things. The thing that we hear from folks that aren't necessarily in the business and in the weeds of this is that, how do I just use this practically? How do I just start somewhere that's going to be helpful for me in what I'm doing right now? Like, I don't even know where to get started. And so the answer I have to those questions is focusing just on the simple things that you do every day that you're already doing, and then thinking of ways that, how could I possibly save some time or do this faster and more effectively, and map that workflow out, whether it's, summarizing an essay that you want to make some edits to and pull out some key points that you're going to expand on further and in different things that you're writing, or a number of different things. Whatever you're doing on a regular basis, I like to take an AI first approach. Don't necessarily always stress about this is going to be perfect, it's always going to work, but sometimes you just need to play with things and break things to figure out what works, what doesn't. And if you practice that on a daily, consistent basis, you are right now going to be miles ahead of the person that is just ignoring this AI wave that's happening and the shift in how we're doing business. That gap is only going to get wider. My mission is to help bridge that gap, and especially as it applies to business and content production. But also, once you're over on the side of adapting and integrating in your day-to-day life, you won't not see new opportunities, because opportunities are everywhere. And the more you get comfortable with this technology and how to communicate and work and talk back and forth with it to get the results that you're looking for, the more effective you're going to be in this, AI age, where if you don't know these tools and these skills, again, employers are just going to be working with people that do. And if you do know these schools, you could be a one-person company that's doing 10x what you would need to hire maybe 5 or 10 people for alone, because you developed a proper system with it and you understand how to do that. So opportunities are everywhere, but knowing where to focus your attention and what problem you're going to be solving is ultimately what we're in business for anyways. So all that said, Dr. Culp, I'm happy to go in any direction that you want from there, but that's kind of my take on things right now.
You, in the latter part of this part, you just talked about talking back and forth with your AI. Describe that, how that works to this old man.
Yeah. So have you played with ChatGPT?
Yes. Yeah, I have.
When I started working with Jasper, and then when we started working with ChatGPT, and really any large language based AI model, I think of it like it is an assistant that's sitting on the other side of the table of me that I'm getting coffee with, and I'm asking them to do something. If I give bad instructions or really poor instructions to somebody, they're not going to get me the best result back, because I was maybe not as detailed or as specific as I needed to be. But if I get better at communicating what I want to see in such a way that I call it like priming ChatGPT, you give it more context and more information about what you want, the more of a idea that the AI has about what you're actually looking for. So you're saying, I want to get ice cream today. Okay, that's great. Here's 500 types of ice cream. But if you say like, no, I don't want 500, I want this kind that has this flavor that's from this part of the world. Oh, great. Well, I can go and find that for you because I know specifically what you're looking for. Problem is it's not going to just read your mind, not yet anyways. And so being able to communicate the same way you would have a conversation back and forth with an assistant that could basically do almost anything that you need to some degree. And we're going to see all kinds of different crazy use cases with it. But if you can't communicate what you want in the first place, then you're not going to have a good time getting the results back at the end of the day. And so you can practice your communication skills back and forth within the chat and correspond with it, and lead it with a direction that you want it to help you like articulate something, or give you feedback on an idea that you've got, or summarizing an article that you've written or somebody else has written to get the key points out of it. But how would you get that information if AI wasn't there? Well, you'd have to tell somebody that you wanted it, or you'd have to go do it on your own. And so the reason I say take an AI first approach and talking and having a conversation with it is because it's very much conversational. AI is designed to sound like a human and be in conversation with you. And so, again, if you don't know where to steer the conversation, then you could go all kinds of directions. And so the focus again is where everything matters here. And then just being able to, ask the question, give the prompt, get the response, and then build and towards the next step from there helps with keeping that conversation flowing and getting more articulate with how you're speaking back and forth with these machines.
You had spoke earlier too, that piqued my interest. But before I go there, tell us something about Gen AI University.
We are an AI education community and platform for helping people grow their business with AI. So we help creators and founders and entrepreneurs, business owners, marketers, all looking to use AI in their businesses for content and for growing their business operationally. We interview experts. We create courses. We are a membership, and then we have a newsletter and a YouTube channel that shares educational content, training, demos, interviews. And we've been around for about 3 years now.
One more, then I'm going to pass out some question cards and get some from the group. You were talking about in a work process, getting something done and developed. Let's take for an example, a project management type situation of building a house. You have to, do the groundwork, you lay the pipes, blah, 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 blah. So how would AI help in that regard?
Specifically in like building a house, like where might you be able to use AI in that process?
Yes. I built a house in Houston, and it took them 90 days. Well, you can't put a roof on the house till you have a house or the building and the pipes and all that. There's a very specific procedure for that.
Yeah.
How would AI help or improve that?
In most cases, I would tell people, and in this case, I would say the same, is that start with the end in mind. And so what kind of house do you want? Like a house, or like what kind of house do you want?
2-story, 2-story, 4-bedroom, 2-bath.
2-story, 4-bedroom, 4-bath in Houston, something like that.
Sure.
Cool. So you got this 2-story, 2-bed, 4-bath. Great. Now that I have a little bit more idea of what I want in mind, what else do you want? Do you want a pool? And you don't have to answer all these. I'm just saying like the thought process. What are the things that you want in the house? First, I want a pool. I want it to be on the bay, and I actually want to have a yacht, and I actually want to have a tennis court in the backyard, and all the things that you'd want inside of it, and or outside or otherwise, to say, cool, this is what I want as the end picture. If you can't imagine that, then maybe there's another place to start. But I'm assuming that you can picture what you have in mind. I would just literally verbally voice that out into a voice note, and then share that with ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, you're a project manager that builds houses. Take this context into consideration and tell me all the steps that I would need to start from scratch to actually build this house out. And then from there, I would feed that context to ChatGPT, and it would take it in and say, great, I have this information. If it's going to ask me anything else that it thinks is necessary, it might ask another question, or it might say, hey, here's a detailed breakdown of all the steps involved with building a house from scratch with different things to consider. And then it would give you an outline of everything. Once you have that outline, you could say, okay, great. Now, based on that outline, I want you to make these adjustments, or I want you to write all of the, go and find some local, contractors that I can get in touch with, or home builders that I might be able to reach out to that can help me with doing this entire process. And then from there, I might go do some research on the internet. It might give you some ideas for different contractors and different people that you're going to want to have involved to build the house. And then from that point, you basically have an outline of where you need to start. And then obviously you want to start with the foundation and all the things at the beginning before you get to the roof. And that same approach of starting with the end in mind would really be applied to hey, I want to buy a car. Okay, what kind of car do you want?
Mm-hmm.
I want to buy a Bentley. Do you want to buy a Bentley or a Civic? if you don't give the context, then you're not going to get anywhere with these tools. But if you can think about what does that end result look like, you can use the AI to help you with working backwards and then focusing in even more on the areas that are going to be your focus right now, or what you need to know is coming up in a project or in a content plan or anything like that.
So how does, you use ChatGPT a lot. How does that versus what you're teaching with your Gen AI? Is it different? How do they interface?
Yeah, so ChatGPT is an interface from OpenAI, which is one of the leading large language model AI companies. Um, I don't want to get like the super technical details on it, but that was it's kind of the company that a lot of people are plugging into for building custom AI apps and things that are utilizing their generative AI technology. And so my company helps people use that tool as well as plenty of other tools that are all centered around Gen AI. Plus, they're like, most tools are integrating AI into their business. And so it's more so like, what's the strategy behind something? And then when does it make sense to use ChatGPT versus maybe Jasper, or Claude is another one that's popular inside of our community that is not my product, but it is something you subscribe to. $20 a month, same as ChatGPT. And it has different capabilities and different features, and they have a whole team that's behind them. And so a lot of what we're doing is teaching people how to utilize these tools most effectively in their business. But the tools themselves are like their own businesses too. And so we've also developed some of our own AI tools built on top of our API plugins with OpenAI or Anthropic, for example, which is the other company that's a big competitor with OpenAI.
All right. Thank you. That really was eye-opening. As a student, I write a lot of papers. How do I use AI without it becoming cheating? Where is that line?
It's a great question. And to be honest with you, I definitely don't have all the answers, especially when it comes to like how you define cheating when it comes to academic senses. I use it on a very regular basis right now for analyzing existing content and helping summarize and extract information and processing thoughts that I am doing to write something in particular. I do it in conjunction with using these tools, and then I'm an editor in a lot of cases of the content that I'm speaking, and I'm using the AI to help me with processing that. I think depending on how and what sort of project you're working on in an academic sense, that needs to be defined too, because if the goal of an assignment is to create a business plan for a startup that you're going to launch, but you can't use AI in any sort of the process, and you have to do it completely manually. And like that's part of the challenge, is to not use AI at all and to totally not use basically technology at this point. Then fine, if someone uses it and then tries to disguise that like they didn't because that was the expectation for the assignment, then I might classify it as like, okay, they lied or they cheated on this. But if it's like, hey, who wants to like launch a startup in 24 hours? You can use whatever tools you want. Then like great, like then it's fair game, and we can use AI to help like launch a startup. And I think that's totally fair. And that's what a lot of people do. And I think it would be silly not to use the tool, but I think a lot of it's going to depend on the teacher or the educator who is putting on an assignment and developing a curriculum to define where it's okay and where it's not okay to utilize AI in the process, and where that it's expected that it's disclosed. And that's something that is a very active conversation inside of the community right now with like, are there general guidelines with it? Are there not? But I think the teachers that are going to win in terms of like students succeeding and learning these tools early on from elementary school through college and whatever are going to be teaching students how to use these and integrate them in a way that is ethical and useful for whatever assignment that they're doing, but not to necessarily like check out and like turn your brain off and just let AI do everything. Because if that's your approach to it, then you're just not going to win in general. And so it's a big call to action on the teacher's part to stay educated on this front and like how to ethically use these tools in the day-to-day of a classroom, because that is a skill that's going to apply to the real world. And so that's a lot to be defined there, but that's where I'm at with it.
I understand. And it's, my question is, in that context, if AI does pull out a quote like 7 years ago, and they don't use quotation, would AI put it in quotes?
If you instruct it to put it in quotes, you could probably do that. Sometimes it doesn't. And so that's where like the copyright aspect might come into play, but also there's a level of like plagiarizing, checking your work that needs to
Right.
come into consideration here. So like after you write a paper with something that you did use AI with, are you running that through a plagiarism checker? Check, did everything come back okay? And like, cool. But you shouldn't be generating content from scratch from AI and then not editing it and then just turning it in like it's your own. Like that to me is just dumb if that's going to be your approach and not going to really get any value out of that. But you could use AI to help you with citing your papers and doing research and getting the right sources so that it's helping you in an assistant along your process, but not replacing you within the process.
That's awesome. Good answer. As a student, what is the best way to study and learn about AI to enter the AI job market in the future?
As a student, what is the best way to learn and study about AI for entering the job market? And can we define real quick on this question? Are you talking about learning how to become an engineer to actually like build models, or are you looking at how do you use AI maybe like inside of the workforce in like a day-to-day sort of sense and getting a job and going that front?
I think it's the latter, where,
Okay.
studying for test or preparing for an exam, or, that same thing, but I think that was what it was. And if I'm wrong, whoever wrote this, let me know. Do what? But, okay, he's talking more about the engineer.
Okay, cool. I'm glad. I just wanted to clarify that because it can go
No, that's good.
for a lot of the big colleges like Harvard, UC Berkeley. Just think about big name colleges, Ivy League, and I'm sure there's a lot in between, but there's a lot of very free courses out there. And so I would just go and start with looking through what are some of the courses in terms of AI and machine learning and those sort of engineering roles. Because you can find that some courses are going to be just like learn the basics of generative AI 101, and that's only going to get you so far. But if you want to start learning how to program, let's say, your own AI apps, I would start with how would you like a tool that, for example, the engineers that I work with, we use a tool called make.com, and that is helping you make these. I want to say it's kind of no code, but there's definitely code that you can add into it. But basically, like learning how to, if you want to do it, like the really, like just start it from scratch and just go do it tonight, I would just go read through like how to like API docs on OpenAI's open free information for how to do that. And then go watch some video tutorials on YouTube for make.com if you want to start like actually making your own apps and developing those. And then maybe look at some of the other schools and the free programs that these bigger universities are putting out to just kind of get a better idea for the landscape, and then pick your rabbit hole and start going down it.
Job. Can AI be given information and goals of a person and manage their schedule and form a plan for achieving their multiple goals? Example, school, health, and career advancement.
Absolutely. And this is something we're going to see a lot more of over the next 12 to 24 months. The term AI agent is going to become more and more synonymous with how to use AI and helping with building your schedules, with managing your communications, and for optimizing the things that are most important to you. And so again, when we're talking about the end in mind, giving the AI things like your school schedule, here is my routine that I want to do to optimize my health on a regular basis, and what are the other goals that I have set myself over the next 4 weeks to the next 4 months to the next 4 years. And if you can get that in like a Google Doc or something, just compiling it into one place, then once you have that context, approach something like, again, ChatGPT. Hey, this is what I want, like all the things in my life. These are the constraints. I've got school hours from here. I've got, practice for this, social event or sports or whatever it might be. And then like, okay, help me with like optimizing my schedule so that I can have more time to do X, Y, or Z. And that's where, again, I throw the ball back into ChatGPT's court to take the context, to take the next instruction that I want it to do, to say, like, okay, great. Sometimes that's all it needs, and it's going to run and start creating an entirely new schedule for you. Sometimes it might ask for some more context. And so that, again, is like, if it gives you back something that's just like nonsense or it's not what you're looking for, it's like, okay, like, no, you didn't get what I was saying. Let me ask that again, maybe a different way, or let me retry it again and again. And you could ask it 50 times. You could change what you say 50 different ways, and it's never going to get upset at you at it. And so, again, like define the goal of like, what are the things that you want for your schedule, and then help it build that out. And then you could probably, there's probably a tool you can Google right now with like AI calendar setting up. And so you could take the context from an app like that, there's probably more than one out there that you could use that could actually help with scheduling your stuff out. And then, again, as the assistants get more and more popular, you're going to be able to just like voice note all of this stuff on a Monday, and your entire week is basically set up. All your schedule meetings are scheduled. You're sending out emails because your AI assistant's doing all this communication for you. It's going to be very integrated to that degree. That's what I think, anyways.
The more I hear about this and some of the analogies you're using there, I keep thinking, hey Siri, call so-and-so, something along that same line, but on a much larger scale. Yes, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's going to depend a lot to the degree of what is like useful for you in the context of your day to day, or like, what are you doing inside of your life? And like, eventually we might have offloaded all like regular tasks so that AI is just doing all this for you, because and that there's a few terms that we're talking about with this, but like you might call it a swarm of AI agents, where you create 40, 50, 150 different agents or AI assistants that have a really specific task, but they can communicate with each other. So you could say, hey, an example for the book that we're coming out with next week, that does like a lot of deep diving into market research with these tools, is I need you to start researching this product or this business to help me with identifying who that person is. Okay, that's like task one. One of the assistants that we work with is going out and doing like scraping the web and doing the things that it's like finding all this information. Once it has that, it gives it to another assistant that is now built to be a market researcher. And so it's going to go and like take the context and information, and now it's going to do what it's built to do, is more market research. Once it's done with that, it's going to pass the ball off, and it's just going to keep passing the baton to finish an entire task. But where it's going to get really interesting is when these assistants keep talking in conversation to each other, and then start building other assistants to build more assistants. And that's where we're kind of at in our process with Make right now, is if an assistant doesn't know how to do something, like I quality check this and then it doesn't do it, then I need to recheck this for quality, or it might spin off another assistant to do more research because it needs to go get a specific thing. And I mean, I'm talking about this in one specific case, but that same exact instance can be ran 100 or 1,000 times at the same time, and literally doing the workload of hundreds or thousands of man hours. If you were to ask me to do the exact thing right now that I'm doing as a business 5 years ago, no way. There's no way that I would be able to accomplish what we're doing in terms of an actual deliverable for this market research stuff in the amount of time that we're doing. And this stuff would take me literally, when I was running an agency doing Amazon e-commerce listings and consulting, bare minimum of 3 to 5 hours for one of these projects that I would do research and writing a listing on. And that wasn't even including a fraction of just the research that we were now creating. And you're talking about 3 to 5 hours to now literally 35 minutes for one of these automations that I could run right now and have it in 30 minutes for this market segment research report. That again, it's taken me, I'm not going to say thousands of hours of my own time over the past 3 years. specifically on this workflow, but definitely a few thousands. It's not like in the 10,000 hour range yet on this particular workflow, but I want to touch on that a little bit more because that's a lot of time to invest in a specific workflow. And the only reason I continue to invest my time into it is because it's the most effective workflow for starting a content creation or like a go-to-market launch strategy to get the ball rolling and get an idea out there and to start validating and getting data and feedback from a market, B2B or B2C. This has been the bread and butter of what we've developed over the past 3 years. And so as the community gets more value out of it, as more people place orders with us to do this for them, as more people buy the book to learn how to do it themselves, we are continuing to add and innovate on this process. But I wouldn't be spending all these hours on it if it wasn't bearing any fruit or like not yielding results for the time that I've been spending on it. And so these systems take time to build out. But this process at the end of the day is the workflow and is the IP that I've developed over the past 3 years. And as a result, I'm now able to monetize that because I have a system that literally saves anyone an hour to 5 hours ish of their own time, even if they know how to run the workflow themselves manually. And, at the end of the day, people will pay me now to just do this specifically for them. And so that's what the main revenue driver is for this particular product and service for our business. It's not the only revenue driver, but I'm able to consistently provide feedback and iterate on it because the delivery and the turnaround time is so fast that is, again, right now, what we're using to kind of keep our edge in terms of our community and get ahead in terms of bringing products to the market, into validating ideas and to gaining more clarity on our marketing and our positioning. So it takes time to build this stuff out. It takes time to learn it. But once you find a problem, focus in on the problem and can solve the problem and use AI to help with accelerating parts of the problem, because there's still a human element involved with this as a done for you service product. Like there's still manual review, quality checking it, making sure the machines are actually working and they're not going haywire and X, Y, or Z. And so like, it's not like I don't have to do all the other stuff in my business because I just have this one AI doing my workflow. But now it's saving me an hour every single time that I can still charge now probably more money. And I know at least 5 times as much more money for this as a service. We started selling it at $99 per report, and now we're selling it for $4.99 per report. The more reports I can sell, I can hire an assistant or 2 humans to run this machine. And like at that point, I'm going to be pretty hands off with it. And I'm building it with that in mind to start. It hasn't been easy and it has been rewarding. And I have no idea what change might come around the corner next week that'll make us, have to pivot and shift our direction or focus a little bit to adapt with the change. But I know the more often that I'm in the game and that I am adapting with the things that come at us, that we'll have the opportunity to, make the pivot when it makes sense. And a lot of people just give up and quit. And if I have anything going for myself and our community, is that we are very much like not going to quit on this stuff. And we're just going to continue to work and make stuff happen and, stay ahead as much as we can. But if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, this is the first 3 years of a completely revolutionary new technology that is changing everything in the way we operate, like across the world. And so you are still very much at the beginning of this wave right now. And, hopefully that gives you some encouragement to just, educate yourself and just practice and start working with these tools on a daily basis. Even if there's no specific outcome, just starting to see what's possible. Can this create a better schedule for me? Can this help me with accomplishing my goals, X, Y, or Z? And you might be pleasantly surprised, or you might be frustrated because it's not giving you the outputs, but just don't give up. And if you don't give up, then you'll find a way to persevere and push forward. But if you don't give up or you don't even get started, then, the train's already leaving the station. And that's not to incite any like fear of missing out. But there will certainly be winners and losers when it comes to utilizing these tools in their business. And the question is, which side of the fence do you want to be on?
Okay, that's quite an elaborate answer. Uh, I got one here that's kind of close to home. How do you think AI will affect the labor market in the future? Question mark. And what are the areas that will be the most affected by AI? Examples, accounting, finance, and banking.
Yeah, big disruption in the labor market. And I think it's going to have the biggest effect on, I mean, accounting's a big one that I think in the next few years is going to be totally different. Lawyers, a lot of things that take a lot of manual time from a digital perspective and maybe even a knowledge worker perspective. A lot of those types of jobs and roles you're going to see, I think, just kind of fade out as technology gets integrated in place. And so things that are very task focused, probably not as much someone that needs to come and mow your lawn until you get, automated lawn mowing services that just send robots to your house and mow your lawn that way. But the things that are maybe like uglier businesses or like just regular boring businesses, like a mobile restroom rental trailer business. Buddy of mine owns one of those. Like if you're at an event or like hosting like an in-person thing, then like those businesses I think are going to be a lot more in terms of like the things that are going on around those businesses. But tasks that go to make a lot of the digital processes happen that are being done manually right now are going to end up getting replaced by AI agents and assistants. And so I think the shift for those that are going to be losing out on maybe jobs that are solely relying on doing those specific tasks, you need to shift your focus into like, okay, what's the ultimate outcome that I can then build a skill of utilizing these tools to accomplish the outcome because I have the tools at my disposal to do the tasks that lead to that outcome. And there's going to be a huge need to be able to shift. And like, if you're in a business like accounting or if your law firm isn't tapping into these tools, because if you're not, right, your competitors are. And while some businesses are probably a little bit more protected, even ones that are events based in person, like I was mentioning with the restroom trailers, should be thinking about this. They're just probably a little bit more insulated right now because it's not solely digital and there's like the physical delivery. But they might not not have the need to hire a copywriter because they have an AI writing tool that just writes all the copy for them. And so copywriters are needing to become more strategists and think about the high level picture. And again, outcome focused rather than like, I'm just writing words on a page to get a paycheck. And like, if that makes sense.
Thank you. How customizable can an AI be for the user? Put glasses back on here. Can a person's age, job, life goals, views, etc., affect my AI?
Very customizable. The way that I see it going with businesses is you might use tools like ChatGPT or one of these other large language models, but you want to build your own knowledge base that you can customize with all of your specific information. So if you have all of that context that you provided with your goals, your views, your how you write, you can customize an AI to write like you, to chat like you, to make decisions in a way that you would make decisions because you've taught it frameworks to think in the way that you can do. And then, with that in mind, you can do the same thing for like, oh, this is how I would approach this workflow. And then you can create the different agents that can help you accomplish that task based on how you would approach solving a problem. So it pretty much is customized as you want it to be at the end of the day.
This one, do you think AI will replace programmers since AI can write and debug code? Question mark. And second part is, what's your opinion on AI in art?
I feel like programmers, that's definitely something that can be replaced to some degree, but I feel like, and I wouldn't, outside of like the use with AI, like I don't know code like Python or JavaScript necessarily to be, I wouldn't consider myself a programmer in that sense. But if you don't have a good understanding of what good code looks like and how to build a program, then you probably won't be able to use AI as much as you'd like to do that. But to like verify the code and otherwise and know that it's good code or not. And so I think it's going to still be helpful to know to some degree, but I also don't think that if like you don't have a keen skill set towards coding and don't want to like build that out and adapt with the change that AI is bringing to stay in programming these tools and using AI as your assistant to being your programmer, then you probably like don't need to be like going into programming. And you can use like you'd probably be able to just use AI to some way, shape, or form in a much cheaper way than going and just investing in being a professional programmer.
What about art?
And with art, yeah, and that's a really hot topic as well.
I'll share this with you. I have a student on my bass fishing team. He wrote on in AI, gave it a bunch of words, and it printed or developed a picture of a wildcat in a bass boat on a lake with a big bass in one hand and his rod on the other. And I showed it to my youngest daughter at LSU. She said, "Oh, that's AI." I mean, she didn't even blink and said, "Oh, that's AI generated." I mean, how are you going to close the gap between that and maybe some better art or
a very recent update in like the creative side of this with, I guess you could say arts included with movies and video creation is like being able to turn images into moving pictures and being able to create images from scratch like you're talking about. But the images that AI was able to generate 2 years ago were like pretty rough compared to what they look like now. Imagine what that's going to look like in 2 years. I think it's going to be almost indistinguishable. I know there's going to be probably tools and things that are designed to be able to detect if something was AI art or not AI art. But I think there's going to be artists that also adapt with this and utilize art within their creative process to create art. And even if it is utilizing AI in their process, there's going to be a lot of different ways to innovate with art specifically. And of course, there's going to be value in creating your own art and doing the painting and doing whatever other form of art that you're creating. But my experience has shown me that someone that has like the mind of an artist or a creator that can see and paint pictures and like has it, if that's their profession or they've been studying it versus someone that's not, the person that understands art and their art especially is going to be able to articulate and develop art with AI better than someone that's not. And that's just saying you give like, hey, like one person draw me this, the other person draw me this. Like I'd be willing to bet you more often than not, if they're using AI and the same tools, the person that's already creative and an artist is going to be able to get a better output if they know how to use the tool versus the person that's not a creative artist and otherwise. But it's also going to open up, the like where art, how are artists going to get paid for their work in terms of like licensing and royalties if AI is just completely like wiping out marketplaces where you pose that. And again, like I don't know, but I know stock photo companies are probably not too excited right now about all of the art developments and how more and more and more realistic these images are getting every week.
Last one. In the field of education, what can be the possible uses of AI for both the teachers and the learners?
In the field of education, curriculum development has been one of the top uses I've seen. Analyzing, content submitted is another one. Or yeah, course and curriculum development has by far been the biggest from like a teacher standpoint that I've seen. And then I know, as I'm not necessarily like in a classroom teaching this stuff, but I know a lot of things in terms of like reviewing assignments that are turned in, checking things if they are like for certain grammatical, like otherwise then teachers are using them for that. And I think there's a lot of tools that will allow you to just help with the review and iteration process of like submissions for assignments. And I guess there's, depending on the class or the setting that you're in, that can go a lot of different ways. But from the student side, really on both sides is brainstorming and using like AI as a way to help you with like articulating thoughts and developing those thoughts into content that you can communicate. And I think with everything that's changing, when we're talking about curriculum development and how AI is being taught in the classroom as it relates to business and getting out into academic research or just the business sense, that like context is still going to be king here. And if you want to focus on solely like academic research, then learning how to use academic research platform tool, like tools and platforms that are using AI to help you with your research, to formulating your thoughts and otherwise, and developing the soft skills. We're freeing up more time to develop the soft skills and actually putting the content and getting it out there and getting more feedback on how you're developing thoughts and again, communicating whatever it is that you're communicating to the world.
Thank you, Darby. Anyone else any more questions? Not seeing any? No? Darby, I thank you so much for doing this for me and our students. We've had several faculty members join us and listen in too. So we have a diverse audience, not very large, but hopefully maybe next year we can do it again and get a bigger response, because I'm going to look more into it and try to see how I can incorporate it in my classes and curriculum development, like you said. And I'm also teaching a research class right now. And you've given me some ideas on doing some research. I told him this morning, I'm Mark Cuban, and I want to take on Procter & Gamble. Find me the best way to penetrate the market. So that's something I could probably do in AI.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And I hope that it was helpful or informative for those of you that were here. And, and that, as you're teaching it in the classroom, that, you're, getting good, feedback or results from, students putting this stuff into action. I'd be more than happy to send you some digital copies, but also some physical copies of the book that we've got whenever that's ready for you to go through the market research side and helping with, getting those ideas out in the market.
Okay, the book you're sending, I want it autographed for me.
You got it.
Okay. Darby, thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done.